Well, hello, and welcome back. All right. Welcome back to day 3 of the Healthy Body, Quiet Mind, Abundant, Beautiful Life Bootcamp series, where I have been sharing pragmatic tips, tools, some insight, a little neuroplasty and education on how you can continue to grow and deepen into your practice of trust. Trusting that you are the creator of your own reality, and that regardless of what trauma you have been through, you can rewire your nervous system and live a beautiful, healthy, balanced life, creating right relationship, not only with your body, but the body of relationships with other things, the people that you love, whether that's a love relationship or a business relationship, whether that's with your children or your family or your spouses or your partners. We also know that you cannot outcreate your current reality, and we are all shaped by our environment. And by environment, I spoke about this yesterday. That means we are intercommunicating, right? Verbally, non-verbally, through subtle facial cues, through body language, through our spidey senses, right? Our intuition and our language all the time on, am I safe? We're scanning the environment all the time, looking for, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And when the brain is involved in that reptilian survival function, and it's looking for existential survival, it cannot go into that upper rung of Maslow's theory and start looking at creative ways or smelling the roses or doing anything that requires higher functioning, because it's just not online. So through this work, I really want to remind you, to trust what you know and to ask for support in the things that you don't know, and also to throw out everything that you think you know or that you're pretending to know or resisting and defending against or for, in order to keep things the same, which is probably not working for you. So thank you for joining me if you're just coming on now. Today I really wanted to speak about deepening this conversation of using micro shifts, right? Concentrating and just acknowledging and celebrating the 1-degree shifts that you make on a moment-to-moment basis, because that is what never leaves you, right? Is the power of choice. And the more that you start to choose and your brain is looking for evidence, right, that you're safe all the time, you can start to unlearn. This is where indecision, this is where I talked about yesterday, where overwhelm, indecision, procrastination, all of those attachment styles, right, of protecting yourself that maybe worked or kept you alive as a child, are hindering or harming you in your adult mind of what you're wanting to create in the now. So so far we spoke about the power of orientation. When you feel yourself being triggered, you feel your heartbeat raising, you feel like you have to go into a defensive position or run away. We all know our attachment style of how we keep ourselves safe and avoid any kind of possible danger, whether that's imagined or real, and how just bringing yourself back to the breath, noticing your heartbeat, noticing any physiological or body chemistry changes that are going on in your body as the silent, safe witness that just has to hold that, nothing to do here, just to hold it and observe it and witness it, and bring you back into the body, because your body is giving you feedback all the time. So the more capacity you have to bring your nervous system online to hold that space for yourself, then it doesn't matter what happens outside of you, you're going to be able to come back to the breath, in holding it very softly, no pressure, just noticing the breath. Um, Maybe rubbing your hands together or giving yourself an energetic hug, using the pancreatic reflex point, the balancing technique that is on the left side of the midline, the largest meridian pathway in the body, that if you can manipulate it, it instantly, automatically resets your left-right body-mind split, brings you back into the body, and balances your blood sugar levels as well. So I always call that my happy pill, my worry pill, my appetite pill. When you're not hungry for life, oftentimes it's an imbalance in the pancreatic reflex point or in the spleen pancreas, which in Chinese medicine we speak of as one organ. So never has there been a more important time than now for you to be able to be doing your inner work, holding your child parts, reparenting yourself, and unlearning all the programs and attitudes and beliefs that are no longer serving for you. And I know, that this takes a lot of courage, to be vulnerable, to ask for support, to reach out, to connect, to show off, especially if you have had persecution or ancestral or intergenerational money patterns or abuse patterns with other people, or your own story still running your life. And remember, if you're still talking about it, there is work to be done there. So, I know right now, and we're seeing this everywhere with the Black Lives Matter, and what this coronavirus is bringing up to the surface is a lot of truths that have been suppressed for a very, very long time. And yes, there are people that are going to continue to demonize and discredit those who speak the truth. So just know, we're biologically wired to survive. To survive. Our ancestors have survived things so that we can be here now. But we really are standing at a mighty tipping point, where we either continue to do things as we were doing them, that are very destructive, that are very dishonoring, or we stand up and we start to steward ourselves as sacred activists to our own personal freedoms, so that we can be that gift in the world for others, and make these choices that we have to, the non-negotiables, that we have to do. And in order to go there and know, what are our values? We spoke about values yesterday. What are you holding more valuable than yourself? Where have you diminished your gifts and capacities? Where are you making yourself small? Because some of these old patterns of survival are running your life, and it's not working for you anymore. So, we have to wake up, name it, and stay with it. As I said, grow up these child parts. If you haven't listened to day 1 or 2, you can go back and do that now. Pause this video or come back to it. But just know that I think the best way to say this is that this is the beginning of a week. So yes, we're on day 3 of this sort of mini short program of tips and tools that I've been giving you. But how are you going to start the week strong? Write your comments and your questions down in the post from yesterday of what is one thing that you're going to commit to, that's going to start to give your brain, your nervous system, the evidence that it needs, that you actually are safe, that you have always been able to trust yourself. Because indecision is just building up. Every time you can't go into completing something, you're saying, you see, I can't be trusted. And that spills into every area of your life. Remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I love that saying that by Carl Jung, that he says that healing is not the same as being cured. It's the development of the new, more resilient attitude with which to face one's life with. And this is really what this boot camp and my work is all about. It's to remind you that nobody knows you better than you. Nobody knows your body better than you. And you are your best medicine when you have your nervous system online in a capacity that you can actually do things that are going to take you closer to what you want and further away from the things that you don't want. And it starts with the story. And the story is that we are all one. We're all interconnected. We are all part of this earth. We all come from the earth and we will return to the earth. Just as our bodies are made up of 70% water and 90% space, our body of water and how we're treating ourselves. So the caring for oneself, right? The tending to your inner garden is the microcosm of the macrocosm, right? We are the micro of the disharmony that we're seeing in the natural world right now. So how are you treating your internal waters is, whether you believe it or not, affecting the water systems of this planet, just as your earth that you are made up of is totally symbiotic and interconnected with the earth at large. And that, you know, these natural laws, they're very intrinsically wired into our humanity. And we have forgotten our way. We have disconnected from the true nature of who we are because we have disconnected from nature. And we just have to look around at the way that we've been treating the planet. And when I say we, it is the collective we, as that we are all playing a part in it that got us to this point. And we have to take accountability for that. We spoke about this on day one of committing, committing to change, committing to do incremental 1-degree shifts and grow that practice into a place where we have more capacity to hold and get ourselves focused, aligned, clear, and clarified to the things that matter and move us, in how we're going to create our way in the world, how we're going to create more resources when resources are not renewable. This earth cannot sustain us at the way that we're going. And yes, when we look to the natural animal world, we spoke about yesterday how animals in nature don't go into worry and thinking about where their next meal is going to come from or if they're going to find water. There's just this incredible dance with nature in the cyclical seasons of the compass direction, that there is a time for all things. And there is no fear of death, right? Death is the natural cycle of life. And I see so many people that are protecting a life that they're not living. They're dying slowly inside. A lot of my clients tell me they feel numb. They feel dead inside. They don't remember when they were last deeply happy. And this is where this longing, we did a lot of clearing yesterday in the energetic clearing and activation at the end of yesterday's session. And I'd love to know how you found that, when we started to clear away some of these inherited traits and survival patterns that are giving our nervous system the proof that we're not safe, that we are not capable of making good choices and finding resources and getting creative and connecting in right relationship with our bodies and the people around us, which is how money and resources come to us. So, again, it's just like when we can look to nature, spend more time in nature, ground yourself, go hug a tree, use your vagus nerve, go hum, go sing to the plants, go laugh, go wail, give grief a sound. Nature holds all of that without judgment. And this is where, again, we have to look at the inherent value structures, what we're holding valuable. Where are you still punishing yourself? Where are you self-shredding? And where are you making yourself wrong? Where are you going into duality, duality and either or reality, or that I'm right, therefore you must be wrong, or because this person has abundance that there isn't enough to go around, that you can't have just as an abundant life. So, just know that coming back to the heart requires a practice. And just like all things, the more you practice this, the more capacity you're going to build to be able to stay in your body in a place of rest and digest, right? We're going through massive purging right now, where we're having to digest a lot of old trauma lines. Um, and we're seeing that, you know, in the emotional and in the psychic field right now, in the greater whole of people, where a lot of these deeply seated imbalances and dis-ease have been running deep for a long time. So we need to be equipped. We need to have these tools so that when these unconscious or displaced, and I don't believe that there is anything displaced, I think that there's divine timing for everything, but when these emotions start to come up to the surface, the ones that are underneath the one, right, the root cause of why you're reacting or creating the same struggle over and over again, often come from that original incident that I spoke of yesterday, and how you can go back and bring that dissociated, fragmented part of you, your child part that was hurt, that is still running your life from that story, into the arms of you, the secure, already ascended, wise woman or man that you are, and see that all of this unrest, all this unsettledness, this uncertainty is you know, a place to really reflect on and get curious about what else is going on here that I'm not aware of yet. Because when we start asking these generative questions, then we can stop feeding the cycle of abuse and trauma. Remember, hurt people hurt people. So if you're hurting inside, access or give room or voice, listen deeper to the part of you that needs you to just witness it, right? That internal protest. And then take the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a breath, notice your breath, step away if you need to, orient yourself to the room that you're sitting in. It's going to give you that space that Viktor Frankl talks of between stimulus and response. We're wanting to widen that gap so that you can really digest it and think about, you know, really a visceral somatic feeling that's beyond the thought, but to feel it in your body and get curious about, is it true that I'm not safe in this moment, right? And bring yourself back through the visceral somatic body, through the breath, through the pancreatic reflex point, through balancing out your cortices, body talk technique that I'll link below this video, but most of you already know. Then you can get to ask these generative questions. But first, you know, we have to come back to the heart in identifying that we're all traumatized. I know I repeat myself a lot, but for some of you that are just coming in today, I highly recommend that you go back and listen to day 1 and day 2, because we're just building on the same theme of how do I create my own safety when the world does not look very safe, and know that it's going to require you to be able to ride the waves, right? The pendulation of getting very, very high and feeling clear and excited and on point and focused, and the next minute you feel like you're crashing down. We're not supposed to be high or low all the time. The body has its natural rhythms, just as the seasons and cycles in nature have their own rhythm. We need to learn how to dance with the shadows and appreciate and really grow that active acknowledgement of what it means to be human. To honor our own experience moment to moment, and if you were an adult child of, you know, a narcissistic or codependent relationship, you know that you haven't been honored for your own wants and needs, and you may have been dismissed or ridiculed or shamed or silenced in your life. Now's your time, you know, now's the time for you to step up and be that adult for those parts, so that you can really stand truth in what it is that you need, while you're, you know, practicing that discernment, because you create your own safety, to really digest all these different perspectives and points of views through listening. And as I said, most importantly, to listen, check in with yourself, listen to your voice within, because that's the true voice. And often we can't hear it over all the mind chatter of the brain, right? Of the mind. So stay with the shadows, because this very much is one big giant experiment in our next evolution of knowing that duality is part of our human nature. It's our human nature to judge. It is our human nature to look for the negativity bias. We're always going to the worst case scenarios rather than looking at what's right about me I'm not getting, or to actually celebrate the small wins. And again, our current experience is highlighting to us all these places where we have been so out of alignment, so out of congruence, so dishonoring, so abusive, not only to ourselves, but to our bodies and to money and to cultures and communities. And all of this, all these distortions are going to carry on coming up, but the suffering in it is optional. We don't have to stay in it. Once we get the gift of the lesson, the blessing, once we can identify and name individually first and then collectively, there becomes more compassion, more compassionate listening. And that comes with the practice of mindfulness. We don't have to re-traumatize ourselves over and over again, but we do need to allow, right, permission to speak your truth. Write yourself a permission slip. That's your play work for today. I want you to write yourself a permission slip on all the places yesterday where you identified, where you have dismissed your value, where you have given up your birthright to thrive from a place of unworthiness. Asking, who does this belong to? Where did this belief come from? Giving voice to your child part. Today, you're going to give that child permission to speak, permission to be heard, permission to just let all that's been repressed for so long, to just be out there as your truth. And in honoring that your truth might not be the same as someone else's truth, but to give space, to hold in your sacred container the permission to speak your truth and let others speak their truth. That is right relationship. We don't have to align and agree. We're just asking for everybody's voices to be heard in a way that is loving and kind, and that we can hopefully learn and grow from what we want and what we don't want through it. So take some time this week to get really clear on what your needs are, what you want, and to speak your truth in what you're asking for in a good way, and to call yourself on the places where you go into the victim of or the learned helplessness of why you can't, all the should-haves or the could-haves, right? The psychic viruses. To stay curious in that compassionate listening, to hear what's really going on underneath all the becauses, right? Write out one, I can't have this because, and keep going until you run out of becauses. And then you will find out what's underneath that. Always underneath the fear is the abandonment, the rejection, the lack of safety that we feel. Once you know what that is, what's underneath the anger, what's underneath the fear or the grief or the hate, once you can connect to the pain, the little frightened one that's saying, I'm afraid that people will laugh at me because maybe she was shamed when someone laughed when she thought she was doing a great job. One of my favorite books, side note, is The Little Prince. The pilot, I can't draw. Because once when he was 3, he drew a beautiful picture of a boa constrictor that had swallowed an elephant. And everybody laughed when he ran, excited to show them his drawing. And from that day, decided never to draw again because they said to them, he can't draw. That doesn't look like a boa constrictor that swallowed an elephant. It looks like a very strange top hat. The shame of that trapped him in his self, right? To mask his creative essence, to ever do that. And when we do that, we limit our joy, we limit our freedom of expression and our creation. And that's really what we're here to learn. What we're here to experience is being soul embodied and the beauty of that. So suffering is optional. Is this easy? No, it's not always easy. But when we learn to sit and we get curious about what the pain is, right? The body pain. And we sit with that part, by going within, we liberate ourselves from all those internal and external judgments and criticisms and beliefs and shaming and blaming. They're not part of your actual true nature. So when you're feeling triggered and reactive, no, use these tools that we've spoken about over the last couple of days. And if you're part of my tribe, this is a constant theme, because it's the part that needs to be heard and witnessed and brought home to a safe space, because the world needs what only you have to give in the world. And that's how we get to heal ourselves. And then we can get to heal our collective. But we have to name the wounded healer archetype when she comes up with a litany of excuses. And then get curious about what that wounded part, the chironic part of you needs. Chiron's going to be around, and most of you are HSPs and empaths. You are, just as I am, very aware of when that wounded archetype is running me in the direction I don't want. So remember, there's only unlearning, remembering, right? Asking, is it true? I love Byron Katie's work. Is it true? Is it really true? This thing that you're saying about yourself, in your definition, in your beliefs, in your limitations. Be very truthful, and know that you are supported. And also trust that the certainty is that, yes, there's no roadmap right now. We're in very uncharted terrain. And this is what independent thought, this is the Aquarian energy right now. And it's part of our human nature anyway, regardless of the planetary aspects, but more so that when this is happening, we're always going to question, what if I'm wrong? What if I get it wrong? Maybe I should listen to the doctors. They know my body better than me. You're looking outside of yourself for something that's going to release you from some of this pressure. Some of the pressure and tension is good. This is how we grow, right? This is why they're called growing pains. But, trust what you know, trust what you don't know. And when you start to feel alone, when you start to feel ridiculed, when you're self-shredding and making yourself wrong, who do you think you are? Rejecting yourself, abandoning yourself so that nobody else can do that to you. Remember, just like Saturn has this beautiful ring, which can be seen as restriction, it can also be like a container of safety. It's nothing but steadfast in that. So when Aquarius sort of comes up, the free spirit, use that energy right now to really empower yourself to trust that your thoughts are valid and that you can do whatever it takes to get resourceful when things feel like they're not very many resources around, and take responsibility for your own well-being. This is what it means to grow up, right? You have to be responsive to your child parts, and just remember that everything is happening as it should. It doesn't mean that there's nothing to be done. but it does require taking aligned action over and over again, because we don't just download awakening. We don't just meditate ourselves into abundance. It's a cultivation of it, right? From a place of safety. It has to be nurtured. It has to be questioned with curiosity, right? That's why brainstorming in a group of like-minded people is so fun, because the more that comes, the more possibilities you have. And the more that you start to build your positivity, not the negativity bias. And that's when you can take the aligned action, when you have the direction, right? That's a balanced yin and yang. So stay with it, stay with the practice, stay with the breath. And as always, as these old lies and limitations, as all these old paradigms and societal truths unconsciously start being enforced on all these emotions that have been repressed. Yes, darling, I did a whole YouTube video on this. You do get to be angry. You do get to feel the rage. You do get to feel the pain, the sadness, the heartache. But most of all, feel the rage, feel the anger. Don't be afraid of it. It is a potency. When you just stop moving out of the coping patterns, right? Those patterns of addiction, and you let yourself hold yourself in that internal protest. So love yourself. I hope this week is a great one for you in whatever it needs to be. Keep practicing the breath, practice the 5-second rule, orient yourself to the room, use some of these tools, and let me know, what is it that you are going to give yourself permission to do. Write your permission slip if you feel brave enough to share it on the forum, in the Facebook group, please do. And be the inspiration and the catalyst for somebody else. Be like the lighthouse that's ever present, that's solid on solid ground, shining a light for all the other ships that are being bounced around out there in the eye of the storm to come home to their hearts. So continue to be the lighthouse, shine your light, and start by shining the light, right, on your blind spots, so that they're no longer blinding you, keeping you stuck. That's how we start to affect change. So remember, I love you. I honor you. I see you. Send in your comments, your questions, your insights. And if this is resonating with you, please share it. Tag 3 friends, invite them in, because we can go so much further together than we can apart. And the world needs us. The world needs all of us to share what only we have as our individual unique gifts and capacities through our own experiences that we've had in this lifetime and in other lifetimes as well. So, keep allowing yourself to stay in the pain. The pain is a purpose, pathway to your purpose. The suffering is optional. So go there, and I'd love it if you join me. I'll be speaking with my dear friend Eva. She has an incredible practice, a very powerful woman, very sacred activist, also an animal lover. I'll be talking with her along with her tribe tomorrow on Facebook Live, 8 o'clock UK time. So we're going to go and explore a whole nother different possibility in connection and communion and collaboration. And as always, we'd love to have you there. So that's it. Have a beautiful week wherever you are. Power of choice is yours. And remember, permission to be, permission to trust that you're enough. I'd love to see what one thing you're going to give yourself permission to do this week, and to make the commitment to go there, follow it, stay there. No, trust, you've got this. And you're not alone. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.